Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me again, Chelsea, and we've got something that isn't a vlog today because I am currently away, which is why you are seeing this and not a vlog. I am not editing while I'm away, so I have pre-filmed this for you guys and I think it's very exciting. So as you would have seen in the thumbnail and in the title, today we are going to be talking about the Our Fantasy bingo board for 2024/5. I'm excited. This is the first year that I am taking part in this and it's going to be a challenge for myself and I'm going to push myself, and I'm excited. So I discovered this through Cassidy from Covers with Cassidy, and I saw her video for this I think for last year's bingo board, and then this year I saw her video and Mel from Eleanor Reed's TBRs for this, and I was like, I need to take part. I want to take part. It seems like it's going to be fun and something different, so that is what we are doing. Now I have got all of the prompts on my phone and I will be going through them with you guys, but in case you don't know what this is a bingo board that's created on Reddit, which I fully don't understand, if I'm completely honest. I try and stay away from Reddit, but this is very cool and very different in my opinion. And this board comes out on the 1st of April. You have from then until the end of March the following year to complete all of the prompts, and you can swap one prompt out, which I will be doing, but we'll talk about that later when I get to it. And there are multiple ways that you can do this board. So every prompt has got just a standard prompt, and then it has got a hard mode. So you can complete the board in hard mode if you want, or in the normal mode, whichever you decide to do. And then you can also achieve hero mode, which is when you review every single book. So I review every book pretty much talking to you guys here on Instagram or Twitter and on Goodreads. So in theory, I should be able to do that for every single book that by we I mean me, manage to read, because I will still be doing wrap-ups and the like. So hero mode will be achieved. So I'm going to be trying to complete this board this year in hard mode. Wish me luck. So I will have the Our Fantasy bingo board link down below in the description box for you to check out should you want. But this is what the board looks like this year. I'll just include the graphic here so you can have a quick little look at it, and then we will go through all of the prompts. So the very first prompt is to read the first book in a series. Now that's pretty standard, right? That's easy. A lot of us start a lot of series. For hard mode, you need to read the first book in a series, but the series needs to have more than 3 books. So I have a couple of suggestions. For myself, I am aiming to read all of these books off of my shelves. Not all of these books this year. Don't get those muddled. I am hoping to complete this bingo board using only physical books that I own. So you will see a lot of subscription box books in here, and then just like TBR vets hopefully, and some newer releases obviously because I'm excited to get to them. But yeah, first book in a series has to be more than 4 books. I've got 2 here, and I also have a recommendation for you guys in case you need one. So the 2 off my shelves are Malice by John Gwynne, because this has 4 books in it and it is a completed series, and I think this is, I don't know if this is completed, and Leviathan Wakes by James S.A. Corey. This book has got so many books in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's 8 listed in here. So both of these definitely fit this prompt. Both of these have been sat on my shelves for a very long time. I have this on audiobook as well, so maybe that would help, and why I have chosen 2 books. If I'm completely honest, this TBR is going to be a bit of a guide. There could be the chance that I read none of these books and I read other books instead. But these are the 2 that are currently on the list. So this is a adult fantasy. We're following many different perspectives. The main one that is mentioned is young Corbin. I think he grows up throughout the whole series, but I'm not too sure. I try and actually go into a lot of my series kind of not knowing what's going to happen, because then I'm not going to be spoiled. And there have been many instances where I've read a description and it spoils something that's happened in the book, or only the good things are mentioned in the blurb and then it's not as good. But anyways, yeah, so we have this, and then we have got Leviathan Wakes as well, which is a sci-fi, an adult sci-fi. Obviously we're colonizing out into the planet and we're gonna follow Jim Holden, who is an ice miner, and we'll see what happens. My descriptions are going to be terrible for all of these books because I've not read them yet, but these are 2 that I have got penciled in to read for this prompt. I have 2 recommendations actually. One is The Grace of Kings, which is literally behind me, which I will be reading literally this month as I'm filming this for you, I've said literally way too many times, this has got 4 books in this series. That would also count. I wanted to also pick 2 books because I like to make my life difficult. 2 books that I'm not actually scheduled to read. So it might end up that that is the one I use for the bingo card, but I might not. And then another one is one that I have to mention, which is Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes, which is an indie author who I absolutely love, and I've spoken to him a couple of times and he is so nice. That series, I believe, has got like 5 books, I think. And we're following our main character Esker, who has been sentenced to this underground jail, which is known as the Pit. It's so good. It was 5 stars for me. I really enjoyed it. It also works for another prompt, which I will mention again later on in the video. If you wanted an indie recommendation, there you go. The next prompt I literally have one option for because I found this so hard to do on my shelves, and the prompt is an alliterative title, and then on hard mode it's 3 or more letters with the same letter. So the only one I can actually find on my shelves is The Lies of Loch Lomora. I mean, I've been looking for so many recommendations and it's so hard to find one, especially on my shelves, and I feel like it shouldn't be this difficult, but it is. I have had this on my shelves for ages. I was very kindly sent this, I think as like I think I got this as a prize. I can't remember. Did I get this as a prize? Yeah, I think I won a competition and I got this, and then they also sent me some chocolate, which is very nice. So this, I believe, is a heist story following a thief. I'm not too sure. But like I said, these descriptions are going to be terrible. This is the only alliterative title. Another rule that I haven't mentioned, because I'm not going to mention all of the rules, obviously check out the Reddit page for that, is that you can't use the same book for multiple spaces and you can't use the same author unless they're in the short story anthology that you have to read as one of the prompts, in which case it's fine. So that means that I can't use this book for another prompt, so I had to find another prompt. But the one that I would have used this for later on, I have many more options for. I'm alluding to something, it's not that difficult. Anyways, this is my alliterative title. If I can find anything else, maybe I will read something else in the process, but this is where we're at currently. So the next prompt is that we need to read a book set underground or underwater, with the hard mode being at least half of the book takes place underwater or underground. Now I have got the Flames of Mira in mind for this because they are literally living underground in a pit. I cannot currently get to my copy of that. Imagine it is here. But I have another suggestion, but I'm not sure if it works for hard mode because I haven't read it, and that is this one, which is The Library of Broken Worlds. Now this mentions that our main character is in the winding underground tunnels of the library, and she is the daughter of a library god, so she spent her whole life exploring these tunnels, but I'm not sure when she goes on her quest to kill a god whether that means she stays underground or whether she, you know, comes up to the real world. So until I read this, I will not know. Another suggestion actually that has just come into my head, which is one I could read because I never finished it, is The Girl and the Stars by Mark Lawrence, because that, I'm pretty sure most of that book takes place underneath the ice after the main character jumps in to save her brother. So that is another recommendation that you can take for free, which I might also take for free if I still can't get to my copy of The Flame of Mira or The Flames of Mira, because it's buried somewhere and I really need to reorganise these shelves. So the next one is the prompt that I was actually alluding to about using for The Lies of Loch Lomora, and that is a book where the main character is a criminal, but the hard mode is there has to be a heist. So I have got a range of books for this that I could read and that you could also read should you so choose to. Now the one that I have got down for this space for myself is this one, which is A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal, which is following a girl who runs like a speakeasy, I think, for vampires, but there is a heist in here somewhere. Do I have the card? Because I love this edition. It's stunning, but it does not have the actual description of the book in it. So this is 1920s London. Our main character and her fellow misfits navigate their way through a tangled web of heists, conspiracies, and conspiracies in a dark vampire world. Get ready for an enemies to lovers romance, secret vampire societies, and of course tea. The word heist is mentioned, so I'm not sure, again, until I read it, whether this counts for hard mode. I'm sure I've seen people mention that it does, but if it does not, I have two other options. First being this one, which is The Crown Tower by Michael J. Sullivan. This is volume 1 in the Ria Chronicles. I can never say that right, and I was gifted this by DW Ross, so thank you very much, Ross, for sending me a copy of this. We are following Hadrian Blackwater, who is a warrior, and he's paired with the thieving assassin who's got nothing to lose, and then they have to go and get something, which is a heist. So that could work. And then the other one, which I've seen everywhere actually on the Reddit suggestion pages, was this one, which is The Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. I don't know a lot about this, but I think there's a heist in this. Ren is a con artist, and then there's corrupt nightmare magic. I don't know, but apparently this could work. I'm thinking one of these two will be my chosen for this square, but we'll see. Now I'm just going to apologise here, if I'm honest, for the guessing, because until you read a lot of these books you will not know what they feature. So yeah, just take everything I say with a pinch of salt. I might change things, I might read things throughout the year that isn't even on this list and be like, oh, that fits a square, and then choose that to go into a square. But we're just gonna roll with it and see what happens. So the next prompt, which is the final prompt and the first row, is a book where the characters experience dreams, and then the hard mode is that the dreams are not magical or anything to do with a prophecy, they're just like mundane or a nightmare. Again, I don't have my copy to hand because it's somewhere else, but I'm thinking of reading City of Nightmares for this, which was in one of my book boxes like last year maybe, or the year, I'm pretty sure it was last year because I remember getting it in this house. And this book is where the nightmares aren't magical, but the creatures from your nightmares will become real in the real world. So that's like a magical element. So I think that'll fit for hard mode. I have also seen some other suggestions, but I'm not too sure. I think this is my best shot at this, if I'm honest. And also it's one of those prompts that I'm just going to keep an eye out throughout the rest of the year and see if I read anything that mentions dreams. And if they are mundane, then I could also use that if I don't manage to get to City of Nightmares. It's gonna be fine. This is chaotic, but it's gonna be fine. So the second row across, the first prompt is to read a book with an animal in the title, and then the hard mode is that it needs to be magical. So for this prompt, I'm going to potentially go with The Rage of Dragons by Evan Winter. Obviously dragon is a magical word. If you wanted, like, I've got some suggestions for non-hard mode. So there's the 6 Crimson Cranes, that could work, and then the Black Hawks as well, both of which are obviously animals, but they're not magical animals, so they wouldn't qualify for hard mode, but this will because it says dragon. So anything that says like dragon or phoenix or, I don't know, wyvern, I suppose would also work. But I'm literally blanking on every single book that I own, because that's what happened when I saw this list. So this just says on the back, a world caught in an internal war, one young man will become his people's only hope for survival. I have seen a couple of people talk about this book actually, and I haven't seen anyone talk about it recently, so I want to read it. It's been sat on my shelves for ages. It was very kindly gifted to me by the lovely Kate, I think for like for Christmas one year. So thank you very much, Kate, for sending me this. I'm finally going to get around to reading it. Hopefully this year. The next prompt I also found very, very hard, and this says a book where the main character is a bard, musician or poet, and the hard mode is that the character is explicitly a bard. So the only one that I think I've got on my shelf is River Enchanted, where I believe the main character is explicitly a bard. I will let you know when I read it. A suggestion that I would have would be the I don't know if it would count at all, is the Witcher series, because obviously Dandelion or Dandelion, however you wish to say it, is a bard. Or if you read, I wonder if they would count, if you read any of the like Vox Machina comics, one of their characters is a bard, because they have to be, because they're D&D inspired. So that might be worth checking out. But there are my random suggestions for that. If you have any suggestions, by the way, for the ones that I'm like umming and ahhing about, or any of them actually, please leave them down below in the comments, because you would really be helping me out. Just in case I can't get to the ones that I've got to, or I go on, you know, one of those lovely book buying splurges that I love to do so much. Thanks. The next prompt is to read a book that has either a prologue or an epilogue, and the hard mode is to read a book that has both, and I have 3 here that have both, if you so wish. I'm pretty sure 2 of these are Cassidy recommendations, so take that as you will. The first one being Ashes of the Sun by Django Rexler. I know nothing about this, really. I know they take away 2 siblings and then they come back together and they're very different people. That is literally the extent that I know, but this has both a prologue and an epilogue. I'm not sure how long the series is. There's 2 books listed in my copy. There could be more, but, you know, take that as you will. The next, another Cassidy recommendation, Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. I know that this is following a girl who is trained in a convent to become an assassin. Again, it has a prologue and an epilogue, so this would work. And then lastly, and I don't know if this is the one I'm going to go for, Master of Sorrows by Justin Call. This again has a prologue and an epilogue. This is following I don't know if we're following just one character or what, but there is an academy here and you basically learn how to dispose of magical objects. They don't want any magical objects, essentially. And our main character wants to become one of these avatars. I've had this on my shelves for the longest time. Actually, I've probably had all of these on my shelf for the longest time. This one the longest though. And I want to read any of them. Any of them would be really helpful, you know, just to tick them off of my shelf. And also, look how floppy this copy is. Like, it's so good. Love it. So yeah, there are 3 suggestions that you may or may not take, should you wish to, for prologue and epilogue for hard mode. The next prompt is an indie or self-published book, and then the hard mode is for it to have under 100 reviews on Goodreads. Yeah, on ratings. So I'm actually not going to pick a book for this prompt because I read a fair amount of indie as it is. I also take part in Spiffbo. I am a judge for Spiffbo, and a lot of the books that get put in for that have less than 100 ratings. So I will just check when I read an indie book, whether it's the next one I read or one in 6 months time, and if it has under 100 ratings, I will pick that and I will just use that for this slot. And now we have the prompt that I also found quite difficult because it's just not my thing, and the prompt is romantasy, and the hard mode is that it needs to be LGBTQIA plus romance. And I think this works. From what I've read on Goodreads, this could work, but we'll see when I read it. And that's Feybound by Sarah El Arafi. This is fantasy for definite. Apparently there's a lesbian romance in here, which would count. I don't read a lot of romantasy as it is, so we'll just see if this works. But yeah, this is what I've got down on my list. I do have some other books, I think, and to be fair, a lot of the like subscription box books that I get have some romance element featured in them, so I'm sure I'll be able to find something if this is not the book that I choose to read. And that was it for the second row, so now we're moving on to the third row, and we start off with the prompt, read a dark academia, with the hard mode being the school that takes place in this is mundane. And I've not got anything written down. I haven't actually got anything written down for this prompt. I need to have a look, because actually I do. I have some, and I haven't actually read enough of them for me to qualify them as I've read too much of it last year. Potentially Plain Bad Heroines. I think I'm going to DNF that as it is and then restart that later in the year, maybe during spooky season. I don't know. There is also If We Were Villains. That's Dark Academia. They both take place in schools. Another one I have to recommend to you guys that I have read is Every Exquisite Thing. It was 5 stars. I loved it. It's got a fantasy element of Dorian Gray, but the school itself is a normal school. It's a normal drama school, so that is definitely worth checking out as well. So we're gonna have a look, and it might be not until spooky season where we actually manage to pick a book for this, but we will pick a book. If you have any recommendations, please leave them down below, because the ones that I also keep thinking of, they're not normal schools, which is frustrating. But I also saw The Starless Sea being suggested. To me, it's not. It is dark academia, but it doesn't have a school. He's out of school. Well, he starts off at school, but then he comes out of it. It's very strange. And then, like, I've got The Will of the Many, but that's a magical school, so I don't think that counts for hard mode. So yeah, recommendations, welcome. Now, the next prompt is to read a book with multiple POVs, and the hard mode is that it needs to have at least 5. So for this, I've got penciled in The Grace of Kings, which I'm not holding up because it's there. I don't know if this has more than 5 or 5 POVs, because I have not read it yet. It was one that I saw recommended on the Reddit thread. If it does, I will let you know, and then I will use it. That is also why I'm not using it for first book in a series over 3 books, because I've already got it penciled in for a different square. Also, you can use Malice. I saw that bandied around by John Gwynne. That follows so many different points of view, apparently, so that is also another recommendation that you could take for this square. Next is published in 2024, with the hard mode being their debut book for 2024, and I've got Centauri's Shadow, which I'll put a graphic up here so you can see the cover because it's an indie book. This is this author's first book, and it is a sci-fi, and I have been very kindly sent an ARC, so I will be getting to that this year, and I will tell you guys about it once I've read it, because that's how this works. The next prompt is again a book that I've tried to read before, and I've DNF'd it because I was listening to it audibly, and then I wasn't able to listen to it audibly anymore because it got taken off of script or whatever it's called now. So the prompt is an important character has a disability, with the hard mode being the main character has a disability. And I'm going to try and finish The Whispering Dark, so I will be starting again from the very start. Our main character in this, whose name I've completely forgotten, Delaney, is actually deaf, so I think that will be a really interesting read. And she has started like Yale, or she's accepted into a prestigious program at Godboll University that trains students to slip between parallel worlds. So not only is it, you know, fits this prompt, there's also a very cool fantasy paranormal like element to it as well, which should be good. And I remember enjoying the first part of this book when I was listening to it, so now I just need to actually finish it. There is some like romance in here, because of course there is, where is there not romance between our main character and a boy that she used to know. So yeah, also it's dark academia. So essentially, if you didn't want to use this for the disability rep, you could potentially use this for the dark academia, because the school is pretty mundane, I'm sure. Obviously she's being taught to jump between parallel worlds, but maybe the rest of the school is boring, I don't know. The next prompt, I actually think all of these prompts are quite hard, but the next prompt is a book published in the 1990s, and then the hard mode is that they have published a book in the past 5 years. And I think this qualifies for hard mode. It's a chunker. It is Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. Now this book was first published, let me find out, in 1994, and I believe, although the author has now sadly passed away, I believe he last published in 2020. So that was in the last 5 years. There is also the suggestion of Good Omens that you could use, because Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, or Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, wrote that book obviously together. Neil Gaiman has definitely published in the last 5 years, and I believe Terry Pratchett has as well, so that also counts for hard mode. This is feeling, I've been looking at this book for a very long time, and I'm not sure, I'm a little bit intimidated if I'm honest. It is massive. This series is at least 4 or 5 books long, and it's a little bit terrifying because it's like traditional fantasy, but I've bought it, it's on my shelves, I need to read it, I want to experience this and see what it is like, and then tell you guys what I think about it. Also, the cover and the spine really drew me into this book, so it was kind of a cover buy, if I'm completely honest, but this is what's going to complete this prompt for me, hopefully. If not, I'm going to read Good Omens. And just like that, we're on to the 4th row. So this prompt actually says Orcs, Trolls and Goblins, oh my, and this is just to read a book with any of those 3 things. And then the hard mode is to read a book where one of those creatures is the main character, and the only one that I can think of on my shelf is The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French. This was actually a Spiffbo entrant, which is so cool, and I am really excited to give this a go. Our main character is called Jackal. He is an orc, I'm pretty sure. Oh no, sorry, a brotherhood of half orcs, so it still counts. But this is one that I saw bandied around a lot in the Reddit chat. Other suggestions that I have, well, one I saw spoken about a lot was the Goblin Emperor, that I have not read. And a recommendation that I actually have, which is an indie book that you should add to your list, is none other than Paladin Unbound by Jeffrey Spate. This is following Umra, who is a half-orc himself, and when something tragic happens to him and his basically brotherhood, crew, whatever you want to call it, of other half-orcs, he sets off on a quest of sorts to right some wrongs and take some names, and it's D&D inspired, so if you like that sort of thing, I think you'll really gel with this book. I really enjoyed it, and the sequel is already out. There is a 3rd book coming, but we don't know when yet. But yeah, so there's 2 books for you to sink your teeth in, and I believe they both have audiobooks as well, so check them out. The next book is to read a sci-fi space opera with a large cast of characters, which could feature like political or personal things in nature. And the hard mode is to read a book written by a marginalized author. So one that I saw everywhere that I actually have on my shelves is the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers. So this is the first book, The Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet. There are over 3 books in this series as well, so again this could work for the first book in a series prompt if you had something else for this space. I do not currently. I don't know a lot about this. I was very kindly gifted this actually by Johan from Library of a Viking, so thank you very much. I'm looking forward to reading this. I've seen a lot of people talk about this over the years, to be fair, and I'm hoping that I'm going to actually really enjoy this and obviously want to continue on with the series, so that's the aim. Next up is to read a book written by an author of colour, with the hard mode being they've debuted in the past 5 years. So I am going with The First Binding by R.R. Verdi. I am so excited to get to this. This is the Broken Binding edition, and I was also lucky enough to win an ARC of this book years ago when it first came out, so I am very excited. I've got number 903, which I kind of like having a number so high. Weirdly enough, but I know that the sequel for this is already on NetGalley, so it's coming out soon. When soon, I do not know, but I know it is soon, so I would like to get in there and read this book so I can justify buying the sequel in another pretty edition, because I'm trying to cut down on the spending. It's not working very well, but I'm trying. So by actually reading this book and enjoying this book, I will be able to justify the cost of another special edition from the Broken Binding. I know nothing of this, and I'm not telling you any of this. On reading this, and I'm not sure if they are, I will have to read it to decide if this is true, but it says that our main character is a storyteller and a singer. So potentially that could be the bard prompt as well, but I'm not sure if they explicitly say bard. So we'll have to read it to find out, but yes, I'm looking forward to giving this a go. Then we've got main goal is surviving, with the hard mode being you're not surviving a pandemic or a super virus. So I have picked A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. If you can hear my computer taking off, I'm very sorry. But I have chosen this because this school is a magic school, so it's dark academia, but obviously the school is not mundane, so it doesn't fit for that prompt. But you have to survive the school. The school is trying to kill these students before they manage to graduate with their magic. So the students are just trying to survive, you know? That is why I picked this. I have heard mixed things about this book and this series, so I have tried to read it before. I don't know if it was the right time. I have the whole trilogy on my shelf. Now is the right time to try and complete that series, so that is what we're going to try and do this year. And then the final space on this row is to choose a book based on the cover, based only on the cover, no reading the blurb is the hard mode. I'm hoping to do this off of my shelves because obviously I've read every blurb, but I haven't retained the information for every single book. So it might be a case that I pick a book that I have had on my shelf for years and I just read it, or maybe I will go to a bookstore and I will buy a new book just on cover alone. You'll have to watch vlogs and stuff to see what gets picked for that. Next up, for the final row, so the 5th row across, the very first prompt is set in a small town, with the hard mode being set in a small town but the broader world is our own. So it could be like a fantastical village or something, but the wider world needs to be Earth. So for this prompt, I've picked Starling House by Alex E. Harrow, trying not to get it to reflect too much because this is an acetate cover, but this is following a house that nobody in this village remembers ever being built. I can't remember where it's set in the wider world of the world, but obviously it's set on Earth, kind of in our time, so yeah, I think this counts. There's also mention of a dream, so maybe this could count for dreams as well. Not too sure until I actually read the book. It's also a nice short book, you know, that helps because a lot of the books on this list are rather chunky, if I'm completely honest, but I'm looking forward to reading this. And just look at this underneath, like, artwork. It's just so pretty, and I'm looking forward to giving this a go and finally reading it, because the last Alex E. Harrow I read was The Once and Future Witches and I really enjoyed that, so I'm hoping that their writing works for me again in this one. Next up is to read 5 short stories from Sci-Fi Fantasy, and then the hard mode is to read a whole anthology. I've got The Anatomy of Fear written down for this one. I'm hoping it fits hard mode. It's a whole collection of short stories written by indie authors, which I have got on my Kindle, so I'm hoping that works. If it doesn't, then I've also got The Advent of Winter, which is also a set of short stories, 25 of them in fact, which were released as a Kickstarter last year on the run up to Christmas, which was really cool. So I've got 2 choices there. Then we've got read a book featuring a being that is uncanny and unearthly and weird, but not anything to do with like the Cthulhu universe, nothing inspired by Cthulhu. And again, I've got another book on this list that I have tried to read previously and DNF'd, so I'm hoping to actually finish it this year, and that is God Killer by Hannah Kana. I saw this mentioned in the discussions, so I thought, well, if they're mentioning it, then maybe it will work for hard mode, and we'll go from there. It seems really interesting. We're following multiple POVs. We've got a god killer whose job is to kill gods, and she stumbles across this young girl who is actually bound to a god, but by killing the god she'd kill the girl. So she takes both with her, and she's trying to figure out how she can separate this god from this small child. So it sounds really interesting. I am looking forward to actually completing this and then maybe getting the sequel. I'm a little bit bummed because if I do like this, I've missed out on the special edition to match this one, but maybe I'll be able to get it in the secondhand market. I don't know. Next is to read a book that features additional materials such as a map, footnotes, glossary, etc. And then hard mode is to read a book that contains at least 2 types of these materials. And for that, I'm going to hopefully be finally reading Babel, as I own 4 copies of this book now due to Lot Library doing an edition earlier this year. This is R.F. Kuang's Dark Academia book, which I think could also fit for the Dark Academia prompt, as I believe the school is mundane, but this has 2 maps in it and there are also footnotes, so this would qualify for hard mode, which I am looking forward to. I do not think I will be reading this edition because I do not want all the foiling to come off, which is looking like it's already starting to now, which is great, which is one of the things I'm not a fan of about foiling. But yeah, so this is my option. I believe you could probably also use like Nevernight by J. Kristoff. That's got footnotes in it and it will have a map at least, I think. And then lots of fantasy books have maps if you just wanted to do normal mode, so there's probably plenty of options out there for you to choose from. Now, the final prompt is one that I will probably be switching out, and that is book club or read along. And the hard mode is that you must read a current selection of either the book club or read along and participate in the discussion, which is hosted on the Our Fantasy Reddit blog. Because I don't keep track of it, I feel like this might be difficult, so I've got an additional prompt just in case I happen to miss that. And you can do this, you can replace a square with a previous one from one of the previous years. I've chosen one from 2023, which is set in the Middle East, with the author being of Middle Eastern heritage for hard mode. And I've got two possibles. There's probably more on my shelves, but these are two that I'm actually quite eager to get to soon. The first one being An Ember in the Ashes by Sabir Tahir, and I don't know a lot about this, but I know this is like a quartet completed series, YA, and I think I saw Becca from Becca in the Books talk about this. When I say recently, I saw it in a vlog that I watched recently. I can't remember when she posted it. And then the other one is this one, the Jased Air by Sarah Hasham, which is the first in a new series. I don't know how long the series is going to be, but it is their fantasy epic debut, and we are following the heir of Jased, who fled a massacre at 10 years old. At 15 she buried her first body. At 20 her carefully crafted lies are starting to crumble. I don't know when the next book is due out for this series. I don't know if it's already out or what, if I'm completely honest, but it would be nice to actually read another one of my subscription box books from the past, so we have additional options should we require them. Now, as I'm actually sat here filming, this video has been very long. Hopefully I've managed to cut it down a little bit, and hopefully you are still here at the end. This seems like a really fun challenge. I'm really looking forward to actually giving it a go and seeing at the end of the year, well, next March, how many of these prompts I've actually managed to cross off, if I manage to keep track of it, and hopefully be able to do like a reaction video or something like that for this for you guys, so that you can see how I fared as well, and then hopefully take part again in the years to come. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please give it a like, really supports me and my channel. Leave me a comment down below of any recommendations you've got for any of these prompts. Let me know if you want to take part. If you're going to take part, I'd love to know. If you just want to leave me an emoji, leave me any like tick emojis to check these books off of the list. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm really hoping to just be using books that I actually own on my shelves for these, whether they're new releases coming in or ones that have been sat on my shelf for a while. I'm hoping to actually try to whittle down some of the books on my physical TBR, because there are quite a few, and I know there are quite a few, so definitely stick around, watch the vlogs and stuff for any updates. I'm hoping I'll mention them there. And if you want to see more of me, please consider subscribing down below and ringing that notification bell to get notified every single time I upload new videos. I try to upload twice a week, this week being this video, and hopefully there'll be one when I come back from being away, and then we'll be back to weekly reading vlogs next week. So if you want to see more of me, like I said, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so that you get notified. But otherwise, that is everything for today's video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I look forward to seeing any of your guys' TBRs as well. So I'll see you in the next one. Bye.